What truly happens in the silent breath between life and the great beyond? Is it an end, a final flicker in the void? Or is it a threshold, a passage into realms our waking mind cannot yet fathom? Welcome, seeker of hidden truths. Tonight, we cross into sacred territory, in ancient temples high in the Himalayas, in whispers passed through generations of mystics, and within the ink of a centuries-old manuscript cloaked in mystery, exists a map, a spiritual guide, a key to the unknown. It is not merely a book, it is a beacon for the soul after death. Known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, its real name is the Bardo Thodol, meaning liberation through hearing in the intermediate state. This sacred text doesn't speak in metaphors or theories. It describes, in vivid, startling clarity, what the soul experiences immediately after the body dies. It is a manual for navigating death, a map through the bardos, the liminal states that exist between this life and the next. But this knowledge isn't for the faint of heart. It is for those willing to dissolve illusion, to confront fear, and to awaken, even in death. In this video, we'll explore the astonishing revelations hidden in the Bardo Thodol, what the soul encounters the moment it leaves the body. Why do some find liberation, while others remain trapped in cycles of rebirth, and how you can prepare right now to face death not as an ending, but as a final glorious doorway to awakening. Prepare to go beyond the veil, because what you're about to hear has the power to transform your understanding of life, death, and the eternal self that lies beyond both. Let us begin. Long before the modern world tried to sterilize death with silence and sorrow, ancient mystics viewed it as the most sacred rite of passage, a moment not of loss but of liberation. And at the center of this spiritual understanding stood a single enigmatic figure, Padmasambhava, the lotus-born, a master of both the physical and the invisible. He emerged in 8th century India and later became the spiritual architect of Tibetan Buddhism. But to reduce him to a monk or philosopher would be to miss the miracle of his presence. Padmasambhava was a yogi, an alchemist of consciousness, and a wielder of tantric powers that legend says could tame spirits, dissolve illusions, and bend the fabric of reality itself. When invited to Tibet by King Trisong Detsen, it wasn't just to spread Buddhism, it was to transform the spiritual identity of an entire nation. At the time, Tibet was a land woven with the wild threads of the Bon tradition, a deep and ancient shamanic system filled with spirits, rituals, and animistic forces. Rather than destroy this indigenous spirituality, Padmasambhava did something remarkable. He integrated it. Through sacred ritual and symbolic mastery, he tamed the deities of the land, not by conquering them, but by weaving them into a greater spiritual tapestry. This became the very foundation of Tibetan Buddhism, not dogma, but liberation through direct experience. And from that great work, the Bardo Thodol was born. Not intended for scholars or mere priests, this text was meant to be read aloud, spoken into the ears of the dying, like a guiding voice through the darkened corridor of death itself. It was Padmasambhava's gift to all sentient beings, a sacred compass for those adrift in the space between incarnations. But why has this text remained hidden, obscured, or misunderstood in the West? Because its teachings dismantle our most cherished illusions. The Bardo Thodol does not ask you to believe in dogma. It asks you to face yourself without identity, ego, or form. It reveals that what we call death is not an end, but a doorway to 3 distinct states, 3 mysterious bardos, each one filled with beauty, terror, truth, and the ultimate possibility, liberation. But here lies the paradox. The map only works if you can recognize what you're seeing. If your mind is clouded by fear, desire, or confusion, the truth becomes a hall of mirrors, and you may mistake your own reflection for a god, or worse, a demon. That is why Padmasambhava's teachings are not just about death. They are about life, about preparing the mind now while we still breathe, so that when the moment comes we do not retreat in fear, but walk boldly into the light of our true nature. This is not mythology. It is a mirror, and the question it asks is simple. Will you recognize yourself when the veil is lifted? The journey through the bardos. According to the Bardo Todol, death is not a singular moment, but a process, a passage, a sacred unfolding through three distinct realms known as the bardos. The word bardo itself means in-between state, a liminal space, a spiritual twilight zone where the soul, now free of its earthly body, is suspended between what was and what may come next. And in these realms, everything is amplified. Thoughts become landscapes, emotions become deities, and the nature of your mind becomes the architect of your reality. Let us begin with the first of these bardos. 1. The Chikhai Bardo, the moment of death. This is the threshold, the moment your final breath leaves the body. And in that stillness, a profound unveiling begins. As the body dissolves, the soul is bathed in what the Bardo Todol calls the clear light of ultimate reality. This is not a metaphor, it is an experience. A luminous, boundless field of awareness, devoid of form, fear, or separation. It is pure being, what some might call the higher self, the source, or Buddha mind. If the soul recognizes this light, not with the intellect, but with the essence of its being, it attains instant liberation. No suffering, no rebirth, just oneness. But here lies the tragedy. Most of us are not prepared. Conditioned by lifetimes of fear, attachment, and illusion, the soul may recoil from the brilliance of this light. It may interpret it as alien, overwhelming, even terrifying. And so the opportunity is missed. This is why the Bardo Todol was written. To remind the soul in that exact moment, you are the light. You've always been the light. Failing to recognize it, the soul continues its journey into the second Bardo. 2. The Chonyi Bardo, the realm of visions. Here, the boundaries of form and matter fall away. The soul enters a dimension constructed entirely from the mind, and the mind, now unleashed from the body, becomes a wild projector of everything it has ever loved, feared, repressed, or desired. Visions emerge. Vivid, terrifying, beautiful, surreal. At first, the soul is visited by peaceful deities, radiant Buddhas, celestial beings, embodiments of compassion and wisdom. These are not external gods, but symbols of your own higher consciousness, made manifest. If the soul recognizes them as such, another opportunity for liberation appears. But again, attachment and fear become obstacles. If the soul clings to the vision, or cannot understand its nature, the moment slips away. Then come the wrathful deities, grotesque, monstrous, haunting. But do not be deceived. These too are you. They are the shadows of your own psyche, given form by unresolved karma, unprocessed trauma, and untamed desire. It is here that the untrained mind falls into chaos, mistaking projections for punishments, believing it is being judged, attacked, or tormented. But those who are awake, even in death, see clearly. All of this is the mind. All of this is an illusion. All of this can be transcended. The visions, whether angelic or demonic, are like waves on the ocean. They are real only if you believe they are. Recognizing this is freedom. In these first two bardos, the soul is offered multiple opportunities to awaken. But awakening requires recognition. It requires training in life before death. Because in the bardos, you will not meet a judge or a devil. You will meet yourself. in every possible form, and so the journey continues into the third and final realm, the bardo of becoming, where the next life awaits, or liberation at last, the bardo of becoming and the final test. As the soul drifts beyond the realms of vision, past the luminous, clear light and the storm of inner archetypes, it enters the final stage of the post-death journey. The Sidpa Bardo, also known as the bardo of becoming. This is the most intensely magnetic phase, because here the soul begins to feel the pull of rebirth. It is no longer encountering symbols. Now it is being drawn by unseen currents, karmic imprints, and ancient emotional tendencies toward a new life. You see, karma is not a punishment, it's momentum. It's the sum total of every thought, intention, and action we've carried across lifetimes. And in the Sidpa Bardo, it functions like gravity, pulling the soul towards circumstances that mirror its unresolved patterns. This is not a conscious choice, but a magnetic resonance. If fear, lust, anger, or longing dominate the soul's energetic field, they become the compass. And what follows is destiny, visions of rebirth. In the Sidpa Bardo, the soul begins to perceive symbolic images, visions of union, of wombs, of couples in embrace. These are not literal. They are psychic metaphors, gateways into the physical world. The untrained soul becomes entranced. It is pulled toward these images like a moth to a flame, choosing, not from wisdom, but from instinct and compulsion. And so, the next incarnation is set in motion. But here lies the final opportunity. If the soul can remain detached, if it can recognize that even this urge to be reborn is just another illusion, another ripple on the ocean of mind, then it can break free, not by force, but by clarity. The Bardo Thodol teaches that those who can maintain lucidity in this phase can refuse rebirth, not in rebellion, but in realization. They dissolve into the clear light, returning to their primordial essence, liberated from the endless turning of the wheel. Why most return? And yet, most souls are not ready. The visions feel real. The longing feels natural. The illusions are comforting, familiar even, like a dream we don't want to wake from. And so they choose, or rather they are chosen by their own unresolved selves. The soul incarnates again, drawn to a womb, a life, a new play of form and forgetfulness. The cycle of samsara begins anew, the hidden truth. Here's what the world rarely tells you. Death does not liberate you. Awareness does. You don't need to earn freedom. You need to recognize it. This is why the teachings of the Bardo Thodol were never about religious rituals or dogma. They were meant to be practiced in life while we still walk among the living. Because the real preparation for death is learning how to die before we die, to let go, to watch the mind, to understand that every form, every identity, every belief is temporary. Only then can the soul remain unmoved in the Sidpa Bardo, able to watch the storm of rebirth pass by without stepping into it. Only then can we say, I am ready. I have seen through the illusion. I choose the light. Preparing for the great transition. What good is ancient wisdom if it stays buried in books? The Bardo Thodol was never meant to be a philosophical artifact. It is a living guide, and its most powerful message is this: your preparation for death begins in life, because in truth, the Bardos are not distant post-mortem states. They are already within us. We pass through Bardos every day, waking, dreaming, falling asleep, heartbreak, change, transformation. And in each of these liminal moments, we are offered the same lesson: let go, or remain bound. 1. Meditation on the nature of mind. Begin with the simplest, most profound practice: observation. Set aside 10 to 15 minutes a day. Sit quietly, breathe naturally. Let thoughts come and go without chasing them. Then ask, who is watching? You're not trying to control the mind. You're trying to see it, see its patterns. It's a distraction. It's endless attempts to define you. This is your first training for the bardos, learning to remain calm in the storm of mental projections. Because when death comes, you will meet only your mind. And if you've never seen it before, it may consume you. 2. Contemplation of impermanence. In Tibetan monasteries, monks meditate daily on death, not with fear, but with reverence. They repeat, "This life is fleeting. This body will fade. Everything I grasp will one day be gone." Why? Because when we stop pretending life will last forever, we start living with full presence. And more importantly, we stop clinging. Clinging is the root of rebirth. The desire to hold on to identity, possessions, and relationships is what drags the soul back into the wheel. So, begin now. Practice releasing, even small things, a memory, a grudge, an expectation. Each act of surrender builds the muscle of detachment, which becomes your greatest ally in the Sidpa Bardo. 3. Lucid awareness. Training dreams are mini bardos, realms of pure projection. And if you can learn to stay aware while dreaming, you're training for awareness after death. Try this. Throughout the day, ask yourself, am I dreaming? Look at your hands, count your fingers, question your surroundings. Eventually, this habit will spill into your sleep, and one night you will become lucid in a dream. That moment is precious. It teaches you that consciousness can awaken even within illusion. Exactly what's needed in the bardo states. 4. Reflect on your attachments. Sit in silence and ask, what am I most afraid to lose? It may be a person, a belief, a status. Then go deeper. Who would I be without this? This is not about detaching from love. It's about detaching from identity. Because what binds the soul is not love, but the fear of losing it. By facing these fears now, you reduce their power later. The Bardo Thodol is clear. Liberation is not a reward, it is a recognition. And that recognition can only happen when the mind is still, aware, and unattached. So don't wait for death to meet yourself. Meet yourself now, and when the veil lifts, you won't tremble. You'll rise. The final threshold in the end, the Bardo Thodol is not just about death, it is about awakening. It teaches us that the moment of death is not darkness, it is opportunity, an invitation to see clearly, to shed the illusions we've carried across lifetimes, and return to what we truly are, pure, radiant, limitless consciousness. But this realization cannot be forced. It must be cultivated in quiet moments, in self-inquiry, in the courageous act of letting go. Because when that final breath comes, you will not be able to fake it. You will face the light. You will face your fears. And ultimately, you will face yourself. So the question is not what happens when we die. The real question is, will you recognize the truth when it's right in front of you? Will you run from the clear light? Or will you merge with it? Will you cling to visions of heaven and hell? Or will you see them as the projections of your own mind? Will you be reborn? Or will you finally, gently let it all fall away? That is the choice every soul must make. So begin now. Meditate, reflect, observe, not to escape death, but to prepare for it as the sacred rite of passage it truly is, because once you see through the veil, you will know death was never the end. It was the doorway home. If this journey into the unknown resonated with you, share this message. Please like and subscribe for more explorations into ancient wisdom, esoteric truths, and the forgotten maps of the soul. And in the comments, tell us, what do you believe truly happens when we die? Together, let's keep walking the path of self-knowledge, one mystery at a time. Thank you for watching.